name is Hayden Anker, and I'm creating this video for those who would like to execute my math and science activity. This activity is a morel mushroom identification activity for 11th and 12th graders. You could use this activity on 9th and 10th graders, but more so it's designed for 11th, 12th graders just because their capacity of thinking, their logical way of going about identifying things, I just think it would suit 11th, 12th graders best. Plus they have 11th, 12th graders mainly have cars, driver's license, they're able to go do this on their own with their friends. So I think it'd be great for 11th, 12th graders. So to start off, prior to this activity, whoever is going to execute the activity, the instructor needs to do a few things. Prior, they need to print out about 15 pictures of different blonde morels, different mushrooms, so they can get a diversity of what morel mushrooms look like. So they're going to print off 15 pictures of morel mushrooms, cut them out around the borders of the mushroom, and then get about 30 popsicle sticks and take those popsicle sticks and put one on the back of each mushroom, and then print out pictures of other edible mushrooms, such as chanterelle mushrooms, king boletes, things like that, and print other edible mushrooms off. So during the activity, if kids ask, hey, what's this one? You can say, oh yeah, this is another mushroom, but solely so that they can, oh, what else is out here? Spark their interest in edible mushroom identification for themselves. But I think it'd be great to just stick to morels themselves, since they are kind of the most widely known, favorited by a lot of people. So I think just sticking to morels would be great, especially for 11th, 12th graders. And if they would like further information, you can go ahead and educate them on that, or tell them where they can go. So from doing that, after printing the other 15, you cut those out around the edges, and then put 15 popsicle sticks on the back of all 15 pictures. So now you have 30 mushrooms, 15 different, and then 15 morels. And you can also do more depending on the size of your class or group, or you can also do less. So beforehand, that's the really only thing that the instructor or whoever is performing this activity needs to do. So to start off, the 11th, 12th graders, I would like them to be an uninformed audience. So prior to the activity, you don't need to educate these students or adolescents on anything of edible mushrooms, anything like that. It can all come within the activity itself. So to set the activity up, I think it'd be great to start off with just maybe a PowerPoint, pictures, however you like to do it. I have done PowerPoints in the past. I think they work best, especially just going through the steps of identification, where to find them, when to find them. So the learning objectives is to accurately identify morel mushrooms, to know where one can find morel mushrooms, and to know when to look for the morel mushrooms. So just to get an idea of the objectives, those are them. And once again, at the start of the activity, a PowerPoint presentation would be nice to just to educate the kids. And you can also address different learning styles through auditory, visuals, and getting a hands-on with the kids also later on in the activity. But first and foremost, informing the students of what morel mushrooms are. They're a fungus. They grow usually during the springtime, after the first rain, when temperatures are above 70 during the day and don't get below 40 at night, and that usually happens for about a 3-day period, and then usually get rain. So informing them, on when they grow, and where they grow as well. Morel mushrooms usually grow, especially over here. I'm from Oregon. They grow near the Douglas firs. We have a lot of ponderosa pines here. They usually don't grow next to the ponderosa pines because of the acidity of the needles. So just informing them, background information. You can do it yourself. Um, on Northwest Bushcrafter is a great site to look for information on morel mushrooms. You can type in morel mushroom hunting. There's plenty of information on searches that way, and you can kind of tweak on how you want to inform the students of the morel mushrooms to your liking. And once again, you can also adjust the different learning styles in any way you would like. I just choose to do auditory and visual just because it seems just standard education has been that way, but I kind of like to do the tweak on it with the backwards design later on in the activity. So you kind of make this activity relevant for the students. I think making activities of kids are like, why are we learning about this? Why? I think if you make something relevant for students, it makes the process a lot better, and I think students get a lot more out of a relevant activity than a non-relevant activity. All of us can remember a stats class or something that we were in. We're like, when am I ever going to use this? So to bring light to why, hey, why would we go look for morel mushrooms? Well, because it's fun and it gets you outside and it gets you learning about the forest and how the forest works, different elevations, when things grow, where things grow, in proximity to certain things, next to the water. So it gets students outside, and it provides other learning activities and opportunities for kids when you get them outside to learn about the forest and forest processes. So after informing the students about morel mushrooms, and the types, and also prior, you had taken the 30 mushrooms that you'd cut out, and you went and put them in an area no more than 50 yards by 50 yards outside. You just kind of hidden these mushrooms throughout outside. So after informing the students about the morel mushrooms, where to find them, when to find them, how to find them, and then what you do after you do find them. You have somebody positively identify that it's a morel other than yourself. So if prior to going outside with this activity, inform the kids, say, hey, don't pick up any mushrooms until I'm able to positively identify them with you. Just so it keeps safe of kids picking wrong mushrooms, and just disturbing natural environments don't need to be disturbed. So after informing them, giving the kids background information, we'll do an activity. So you can split the kids up into pairs, 3s or 4s, depending on the size of your student class. It all depends on that. I really think the smaller the class, say you have 8 students, you can just do individually, or you can do pairs. It's completely up to you. So next, inform the students that you're going to go outside, and we're going to look for some morel mushrooms. But before that, we're also going to look at lookalikes that look like morel mushrooms that are not, and that they do not want to pick. So then you'll go to your next slide and kind of show the false morel, what a false morel looks like, the characteristics distinguishing it different from an actual morel mushroom. So the kids know, hey, there is a dangerous side of trying to go pick edible mushrooms. There are consequences if you do pick the wrong ones, and you can inform them that, hey, you may get sick if you do consume the false morels or any other mushrooms. So number one is positively identifying these morel mushrooms and knowing that you did pick. I have found within my picking experience that it's pretty easy to distinguish between false morels and morels. So that's why I also think this activity is safe and okay for 11th, 12th graders. It's not trying to identify something like boletes or something like that or like a fairy ring mushroom that do have pretty similar, oyster mushrooms as well, very similar lookalikes. And the process to distinguish it from the false and the real is a little more in depth than a morels would be, since morels are so unique themselves. So after letting the kids know you're going to do the activity, the false mushrooms, and informing them about morels, when and where to find them, elevation, after the first rain, things like that, go ahead and let them know on how the activity is going to work. So the activity is planned to get the students in singles or pairs or 3s or 4s, go outside. There's some mushrooms in the forest hidden. Some are morels, some are not. You can let them know that hey, there are other mushrooms out here as well, and really drive home that, hey, you need to have me come over and positively identify these mushrooms before you guys pick them, right? Um, so we're gonna go outside. We're gonna go look for some morel mushrooms, and we will come back inside and discuss it as a group and have a debrief. So you can go ahead and take the kids outside at this point, walk with them outside, and kind of let them know the parameters that you're going to have of the area, the 50 yards, or if you decide to do less, 30, however you would like to set the activity up is up to you. Let them know, hey, once you found a morel, go ahead and stay there and wait for me to come over. And I'll come over, and if you find a different mushroom, we can go ahead and talk about that later, but go ahead and leave it where it is. So you go ahead and let the kids go outside, let them look for them. Once everybody has found morel mushrooms, we'll go ahead and go around. You can go clockwise, counterclockwise, and go let the kids pick them. It's kind of fun. And then once picking those up, if you have any other students that are like, hey, what are those other mushrooms that were out there? Are those things edible? You can go ahead and inform about it. It's another teaching piece to this activity. You can go ahead and let them know, oh yeah, that's a chanterelle, or that's a king bolete. Those are also edible too. Just to kind of spark their interest and be like, oh really? And maybe they'll go ahead and look it up themselves and take this further than you really plan to, which was kind of the goal. So after doing that, you bring the kids back inside. We can go ahead and do a debrief after that. And then either the student pairs that had went out and found morel mushrooms together, or if they were single or in groups of 3 or 4, we can have them come up, each group, and go ahead and explain, why did they think this was a morel? What were the distinguishing characteristics of the morel itself? Why did they think that was the morel versus, a false morel? So we can go ahead and do that, and it kind of drives home the student learning process of that, of getting kids to explain what they found. It's kind of showing your results. And also you can ask enticing questions at that point too. Hey, where was this mushroom found? Was it under a certain tree? Do you know what the temperature is outside? So you can ask questions that further engage the students on their learning processes. And that way too, instead of you teaching the students can also teach students. So while they're up there, it'd be nice to have other students ask questions to these students about the morels, and you can also use it as a facilitation process for yourself to sit back as a facilitator and also help this learning process for the kids. But once your debrief is done with the students, go ahead and you can either sit down if they're still engaged with the activity. Go ahead and ask stories. Hey, have you ever went out with your parents and looked for them? Anybody have any stories of finding morels? And go ahead and have a little more time if you'd like. I mean, depending on how much more time you need. But if you're running short on time, you can go ahead and kind of cut the activity there and have the kids wrap it up. Or you can go ahead and, hey, here's a few different sites to look at for other edible mushrooms, to just further engage learning through that. And then also, if you do have more time, you can talk with them, go ahead and introduce, say you might do this activity before, like forest processes, or what am I thinking of here? Anyhow, you can go ahead and just use this activity to bring out other lessons you were trying to get across. Processes within forests is great, how forests work. Ecosystems within forests is what I was trying to say. Just how the ecosystem works within a forest, You can go ahead and talk about debris on the forest floor and how it decomposes. Things like that, just getting kids outside. What did you notice around the trees, Were the mushrooms found on this hillside? Were they found next to water? So you can go ahead and just go ahead and introduce other activities with this certain activity. I think it's great. It gets kids really engaged in thinking about it, other than, hey, why would I go out in the forest? It just gives them another reason to get outside and, be within the forest and try to understand more of its processes and how it works. I enjoy looking for morels. I know all my friends, a lot of my friends do. It's just fun to do, rather than, I mean, not rather, but including while you're going on a walk or a hike. It's just something that's kind of fun to do. I found it just keeps you out there a little longer too, looking around, especially if you're finding mushrooms. You're out there a little longer. Um, Observe a lot of wildlife and things like that. So I think it's a great activity for this age group. If you're going to do it, here is the instructions. Thanks a lot.